Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene here on Tuesday, August 13th, and I'm coming here to share with all of you and talk mostly about the New Jersey Flosstube Retreat. It's been over a week since it ended, and there's a reason why it's taken me over a week to get a video out, and it's because of something I got to do yesterday related to the retreat, and I will get to that. There's been a number of videos that have started coming out over this weekend, and I'm already behind. So you may have already started watching and seeing some of the, I'm going to use Michelle Bendy's word, joyousness that came from being together with so many at a wonderful event. But of course, I need to contribute my share, my perspective, my pieces to it as the organizer and of course, it means so much to me to bring together stitchers. The first time I did it a year ago in May, and to do it again this time, to learn from lessons from the first time, to improve upon things, to know where to go with certain things. I want to say it was a wonderful event. So this is the logo that I designed. You may have seen some pictures on Instagram if you follow me there. It is got some aspects that make it similar to the logo from the first year, but there's also some things that make it different. I chose to stitch it in a purple color with beads here, but I gave out a copy of the pattern to everybody, and there were some people who did start stitching it at the retreat. I don't know if there will be others who will stitch it after the fact, but it was a design. It was important to me to create a design that carries some aspect. The words Flosstube Retreat are basically the same font, same everything as the first year. The border is different. The border has historical significance. It comes from an old pattern book, the same old pattern book that the border from the first year came from. But to me, this is just, it's just a piece of the whole big picture. I am going to talk about a bunch of things. I have a list written down. I'm going to say right now, there's a good chance I'm going to forget stuff. And so if it pertains to a particular person or people, I'm going to give my apologies ahead of time. I'm sorry if I leave anybody out. Because there was just so much. There was so much that was wonderful about the experience. The build-up for me, so much of the weeks leading up to it was the anticipation. And if you've ever had those events in your life where you're excited for it and you're also sort of scared and nervous, and part of that scared and nervousness feeling is just because you just don't want it to be over. I have also very much been dealing with the retreat hangover, the crash and burn, the all of those feelings that come afterwards, and it's doubly so when you're the person who has put it on, and when it has been something that has been so all-encompassing in my life for the last period of time. So this is just going to be a time of sharing, and I hope you'll stick with me. Just to let you know, for the last couple of videos, actually behind me, a few times when I've like leaned over to get something, you might have even seen boxes and stuff behind me. Not only has this taken over, the retreat has taken over my mind space, it has also taken over my physical space by stuff all over the place. I still have stuff all over the place, but it's different kinds of stuff at this point. So this, of course, was the first thing to share with all of you. Again, maybe it's because I haven't gotten to too many videos yet, but one of them I did watch was Michelle Bendy. She said that she focused a lot on the stuff of the retreat and had not gotten to much of the joyousness of the retreat. And I'm going to try and do bits of both. It is hard to capture when you are in a room with people who love what you love, and you don't get that opportunity that often. And especially when you know you have helped bring together those people. That just meant the world to me. When I saw people making friends, when I saw people greeting one another who, whether they knew each other in person before this event or they just felt like they knew one another because of through Flosstube, or they were meeting each other in person for the first time, and yet it didn't feel like they were meeting each other for the first time. I witnessed a number of those kinds of greetings. There's no doubt there's still the introvert side of me, and I still had my moments of everything's running smoothly. There's nothing I need to be doing right now except sitting and stitching, and that's okay. And I did have those moments. Of course, when it all is said and done, I do wish I had visited more tables and talked with more people, and that's where I can say that I had times where I reached my limit, where I had to sort of, for self-preservation's sake, kind of take that deep breath and just be still. I tried to take as many moments as possible of just that be still and scan the room and just appreciate everything that was there with all the people that had come together. The noise level, which to me was a comfortable noise level in that it was people enjoying themselves. Whether they were at a table sitting and stitching, whether they were walking around and looking at the show and tell / brag table, whether they were up at the freebie table having a go at it and finding all kinds of finds. It was all wonderful to me. It takes a village. I'm sure you've heard that phrase. I felt it this time, and I so appreciated it this time. And to me, there were 2 villages that were a part of this, and they came together so beautifully. One village is my New Jersey stitching group, and these ladies know who they are and how appreciative I am that they came into my life thanks to the first New Jersey retreat that we had a year ago in May. And that group, these were not women I knew before this, but we kind of came together and been meeting just about monthly. They said to me, not only, we want another retreat, Arlene, we want to help you make this happen. And they jumped in so many ways, and you're going to hear me talk about that in the concrete ways in terms of what you're going to see from the bags, but also in the concrete ways during those days when errands needed to be run, when things needed to be laid out and organized. It just happened. And it was beautiful. And it meant so much to me that I didn't need to micromanage everything. And each and every one of you, you know who you are. I so appreciate it. The other village that was involved was the stitching friends that I have made and that are near and dear to me, and yet we've only met a few times, a handful of times at retreats over the last couple of years. When they came into town, they were also there to help me, particularly McKenna and Abby helping me set up along with the New Jersey group. Watching McKenna ride the luggage cart as we were bringing everything down from our room and getting everything all laid out, those kind of moments, even though I was busy, even though I was trying to, all right, where's this, can we get this set up? I was still taking snapshot moments in my mind. This is all I want it to be. I'm surrounded by such support and love. When it came to packing up, how everybody from both of these villages were there to help and support it. It's all, I don't have the words. I hope I'm in some way conveying it. If you have watched any other videos, you may have seen and already heard about bag contents, but I would love to share from my perspective because I can share a little bit more of the details involved. So I was able to give out some pretty nice bags this year. I am, again, the learning lessons where I ordered these bags from, again, here's the logo. I learned how to shop wisely and how to get a better quality bag for a good price, and I'm just pleased with myself for that. I love the people who have commented that they appreciate a zipper bag, because I do too. So all these bags are put together with a name tag. It's something that I know I appreciate when I go to an event, that because you have a little over 100 people who all have the same bag and you don't want to confuse them, so I did that ahead of time. In the bag, everyone got a name tag. my name tag is in here. I love the people who did notice that I used a cross-stitch font, that you could literally stitch your name if you so chose. And I used if you had a Flosstube and an Instagram that were put right on the name tag, so as people could make connections, especially those who use other names like something Stitcher or something like that on Instagram, on Flosstube, make the connection to the actual first name and so on. There were 3 pieces of paper. There was an info sheet, and I'm going to use this to help remind me to talk about a few things. There was a copy of the pattern. Everyone was able to, if they so chose, to stitch it, and an attendee list, which I just think is really appreciated. I know I came at this from the perspective of what do I appreciate when I go somewhere, and having a list of people who went is something I know I appreciate. So, contents of the bag. Needlework. So some of the items were donated and some were purchased and some were made, and I'm going to try and differentiate as I go through. Needleworker's Delight donated these packages, and in here was a coupon to use, 15% off, which I know all attendees appreciated. There was a pattern, and there were also 4 pieces of fabric. I believe 3 of them were identical for everybody. An 18-count Devosa, in this khaki color, a 28-count dark teal green. It's a dark green, and a 32-count deep magenta in Belfast linen. And then the 36 count, because I'd asked them to just give a range of counts. I did see 2 different. This one, the one that I just pulled out, is in lavender. There was also some that were pale silvery moon, I think is what it's called, which is a light gray. So they just did some variety for that. So I know these little fabric pieces are good for ornaments, are good for smalls, and I think hopefully were appreciated by attendees. Also in here, donated by Krynick. Do I not have it in here? Is a bag o' bits, and I don't have one in here. Bag o' bits, I've seen them in other places. I know Krynick uses them at, like, when they do maker fairs. It's a bag filled with small pieces of their braids and stuff, and it came with a piece of paper of ways to use them. Oh, I should have said this. Not donated, but purchased for the event. I know a drink container. Tumblers were very much appreciated, and again, I had these created with the logo printed on them. I've got things all mixed up in here. Okay. I gave everybody a pouch. It looks like a pencil pouch. Certainly could be used for that, but also good for holding on to all kinds of stuff. In here, donated by Teresa from Favors with Flair, a tape measure, and you could see there are stickers on there to acknowledge where it came from, the Flosstube Retreat. Donated by Gary of Fiber Talk, where it was a grand, wonderful selection of Rainbow Gallery fibers. Everybody got 2 cards, all different kinds, and I saw some swapping going on, which was wonderful. Donated by Weeks Dye Works. Everyone got the same. There were some questions about this. Everyone got driftwood. This brownish color, a good neutral. It's actually showing up quite differently on the screen here. This is a purchase for everybody, a friction highlighter that is erasable. When I will admit, I'm not a highlighter person when it comes to stitching patterns. It's not something I ever have done. I'm the first to say never, okay? So who knows in the future if I ever start doing it. But when I saw erasable highlighters, I was like, those are cool. I need to make sure more people know about them, and that's why I wanted to make sure to include them. Everyone also got 3 raffle tickets. You could see this is my bag, and I never used my raffle tickets. And I'll talk more about the raffle in a minute. So there were these pouches in there. And then there were also, what is this? Oh, these pouches. So I mentioned my wonderful New Jersey stitching group. Back in the fall, when I was putting together that we were going to be doing this retreat again, not only did they say we want to help you, there was also a lot of thought of what we can do, what we, the group, could do to make the bags extra special. And that included hand making some things. And what evolved over a period of time was led by a wonderful Barbara. If you either attended the New Jersey retreat in 2018 or just heard people talk about it, she is someone who just showed up without having said it ahead of time, having made scissor fobs for everybody. And it was just so wonderful. As I came to know Barbara this year, I realized not only does she have amazing craft rooms, I say rooms, plural, at her home, it's part of her giving nature and her creative nature that she brainstormed with all of us and just had this vision of things that could be made. And then we had planned a day, we planned a day and had a day back in April where in assembly line fashion, the group of us put together a number of these items. I say a number. Excuse me. I'm going to sneeze again. Excuse me. I say a number of these items, but I'm not going to say all of these items. Why not all of these items? Because Barbara was a little busy beforehand and ended up making all 110, this is the number we were working off of 2 of the 7 items that we were going to do assembly style fashion that day. She's just phenomenal. So one of those that she made all by herself were these snap bags. And they have a metal, it's actually part of a tape measure in here that helped them snap to stay closed. And they were all different, although there were some repeats. I feel like I was watching somebody's video who was showing this particular fabric. In here, everyone got a little journal-style notebook with a tag that says New Jersey 2019 Retreat. And again, these were supposed to be assembled like assembly style. Instead, Barbara just made them all, and they're just beautiful. I cannot wait. I can't wait to be using this in just different papers, stamped, pockets, all kinds of ways to use the little notebook like this. It's just beautiful. Things we did assemble that day, the group made counting pins for everybody, put on the beads, assemble them onto these cards, the whole 9 yards. Beautiful handmade counting pins. The group also put together, well, Barbara had started the whole process, but the group finished off the process of the beeswax. There were, I want to say, 4 different types of flowers that were in these, and then with a tag stamped like that. Led by one of the group members in particular who loves making these, Regina. Everyone got thread drops, and they are hooked onto these, what do you call them? Rings that have become quite the rage. So everyone got these, all stamped out differently. And then in assembly style fashion, we were making scissor fobs. This is a pair of fancy scissors that I picked up a couple months ago, and I sort of knew I was going to save them, and they were going to become my official New Jersey Retreat scissor fob scissors. That day in April, when we were assembling all of these and working together as a group, was just wonderful. Knowing that everyone was so excited to be a part and making all these things for other stitchers. But you know what? It didn't end there, because what ended up happening at the retreat is that more stuff was brought by other people. So Caroline from Evertote had contacted me really I feel like it was only a week or so prior, saying, how many attendees are there going to be? I'm thinking about making notions bags for everybody. Yeah, she made bags for everybody. So appreciated. Caroline from Off the Grid. Kelly Bell, so sweet, made Ort containers for everybody with a little bell. Kelly Bell. And again, just showed up saying, I made these for everybody. So appreciated it. Others handed out, and I didn't bring them up here, but you might have seen them on other people's videos. Oh, we got these from Leah. Just fun. Somebody had another name for them. Stitching companions. Megan and Regina gave out thread peels to hold your fabric. Oh, which you'll see, not the one she gave out on this retreat, but you'll see an example of that in a minute. Do I have other things in here? So there was just such an atmosphere of giving and sharing that I just loved. I just loved that feeling, and I hope others will agree with that when I say that. I think it's been, I think everything that I have, the feedback I have gotten is that it was very much appreciated. We were in a different hotel this year. Lots of good reasons to not be at the same hotel as last year. And as the organizer, sure, I was a little nervous going into it, just simply doing something different. But everything was working so well. I've got lots of positive feedback about the place where we were at, that the hotel worked wonderfully for everybody. We were located in a place where you could walk right. There was a Walmart right there. There was a Dunkin' Donuts. There were 2 restaurants. There was a McDonald's. There was walkable things, which I know is very much appreciated. And that was something I was looking for when I went seeking a new hotel, that there would be options for people who didn't have a car that could be right there. I was generously gifted with some items. I'm almost afraid to do this because I feel like I'm going to forget things. Like right now, I'm already thinking there is a book that was given to me by Lily. Thank you very much, and it's sitting downstairs. So thank you, Lily. I'm just going to share a few of the things that Karen from California made me a beautiful project bag. Lori, Once Upon a Stitch, gave me a couple of her grandmother's beautiful crochet doilies. I've already started using this one in particular, thinking about a mandala flower looking design, and we'll see where I go with that. But what a beautiful gift that was. Kelly Bell, again, gave me a little package of a scissor fob and scissors and some thread. Just a little thank you. Carmen made me some cozies to hold drinks. I love, she's just learned to crochet, and she's sharing her crocheting loves with others, and to hold a mug or a cup to either soak up the condensation or to keep something warm, which I love. From Betsy came a beautiful scissor fob. And I feel like I'm probably missing things. And if I'm missing something you gave me, my apologies, and it'll probably show up in another video. Thank you. What I appreciated so much were those who did come up to say thank you. This retreat meant so much to me. And putting this all together, because I was doing it for others and knew that, I mean, yes, there's a selfish side. I was doing it for myself too. I need something like this in my life to be working on. And yet there's no denying there was a lot of time and effort and love that was put into it. And for those that took the moment to come up and say thank you to me, that meant a lot. I just, in a brief little lace section, I also need to say a huge thank you to Betsy. She brought me, and she'd let me know ahead of time, a huge donation of lace items, some lace pillows, a bunch of magazines, some amazing books. This one, and this one, this one. She is, I guess you would say, downsizing, and I will be disseminating some of that to the lace groups here in New Jersey, sharing some of the wealth and making sure all the items get used in a good way. And that's, you know, it's sort of the equivalent of bringing your own item, your stitching items to the freebie table. I'm so glad that I can share some of the lace items and also make use of some of the beautiful things that she gave me. So a special thank you to Betsy for that. Oh my goodness. Again, I know I'm going to be forgetting things. I need to talk about the raffle, especially because that explains why it's taken me over a week until, well, it partially explains why it's taken me over a week to do this video. So I, as I did last year, wanted to make sure I have a raffle. It's part of the fun. I had donations coming. There's a couple things I purchased, a couple things I made. I wrote to some companies like Kreinik and Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts, Sulky, asked for donations. Some individuals like Christine from Stitch All the Things, Emily from Eclectic Possessions, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget people and I'm so sorry, who willingly offered to donate items that they make. Caroline from Evertote. And then just donations just started coming from people who said, I have these wonderful patterns that, and we're talking good patterns, a full-on kit, just wonderful things, that books that just appreciated. I didn't end up getting a final total, but I know it was over 40 items that were on the raffle table. In doing this, I wanted to bring a charity piece to this. I'll take it back to specifically to Stitch Nanigans this year. I know there's been other charity things going on, but I was so impressed with what McKenna did in raising money for a hospice organization in her area. And I didn't have this charity component last year, and I thought I wanted to do it this year. And then came to thinking about what I wanted, where I wanted the money to go. And that was a little harder to come up with, but I want to share with all of you. So part of my story, and if you've been with me here in Flosstube, you know, last summer I lost both of my parents 8 weeks apart. I asked my sisters if they could think of a charity that a donation could be made in memory of our parents. It would be wonderful if there was a particular organization that they loved and supported, and that would be nice, cut clear, and there wasn't something like that. But it is absolutely true that they love animals. I've taken in their dog. Maddie is downstairs sleeping right now. And so I also have a love for a local no-kill shelter here that I have been aware of and supported in my own ways for many years. And when my sisters came back at me and said, why don't you just choose a local charity to you, a local place to you, it all came together. And so I made the decision that any money raised would go toward an organization called SAVE, A Friend to Homeless Animals. SAVE stands for Small Animal Veterinary, and I forget what the E part stands for. And it's an organization that's been around for 75 years. They moved into a new facility just about 3.5 years ago, and it's beautiful, well needed, well appreciated. And they are a save and rescue organization. And so I put this out there that I wanted to do a donation from the New Jersey Flosstube Retreat 2019 in memory of my parents. And I hoped that that would be okay. It's to support a shelter that saves dogs and cats. And I was floored by the response. I will also give a huge shout out to Abby Topknot. There was a point during the retreat where I was gone for a few hours and she was left in charge of the raffle tickets. And I even said to her, there was whatever amount of the roll of tickets was left. And I said to her, I don't think you'll run out, you know, in case you do, there's another roll, you know, and I pointed to her, but I don't think you'll run out. Well, she took that on as a challenge. She did an amazing job selling raffle tickets. And that night, to be able to share with everybody as we counted up the money, thanks to some helpers, $2,289 went to SAVE. And yesterday, that's why it took me until now, yesterday I drove over to SAVE to give that donation in person. And I walked in there, and I want to share this with all of you, and there was someone who, you know, at a front desk, sort of receptionist kind of thing. She said, "Could I help you?" And I said, "Well, I'm here to give a donation." She said, "Is it items or is it a check. And I said, well, it's a check. And she said, well, I could take it. I said, well, can I speak to your director? And she kind of hesitated, and I said, well, this is actually a large check. And I had the envelope, and I showed it to her, and I said, it's over $2,200. She said, let me get the director over here. And she called her on the phone. She said, I have someone here who's dropping off a check for, and she rattled off the number. And I could even hear like this woman, Heather, on the phone. She's like, I'll be right over there. Just what they referred over there in terms of where I'd walked in and where the offices were. And this woman, Heather, had this huge grin on her face and was just so excited to hear about, and I explained how this was a raffle and a fundraiser, and I said I was fundraising for you guys, and you didn't even know it, and I was so surprised with how much money I am bringing to you, and what she just kept saying over and over is that summer is a slow time for donations for them, and that this money was going to go a long way to paying bills and to helping some specific animals, and she just kept grinning the whole time, and it was a wonderful visit that I had yesterday, and I am so glad that I can, as much as I can share it with all of you, just to know we did good. We did good in the world, and that there are some cats and dogs out there that are being helped with the money that was raised. It was so appreciated. Just wonderful. And I thank everyone for supporting that in all the ways they did. The people who donated to the raffle with items, the people who bought raffle tickets, just everyone who gave in the right spirit, who totally got it. It just thrills me. So thank you for that piece. That's just amazing. A little over 100 people. We were at 104, I think is our final total for the retreat. Could raise that much money. It's a beautiful thing. What did I work on during the retreat? Well, it doesn't feel like a whole lot. I'll show you my pitiful little progress. I was stitching on, as this has sort of become a retreat piece for me, my color thesaurus, which feels like it'll never be done. And I couldn't even tell you what was done before that. I think I showed it in my last video. I know I started working on this. So I was stitching a little bit on there. Oh, that it wasn't in it wasn't in there, so you didn't see it. I also gave everybody official needle minders. So you see that there. And this was a gift from Abby Topknot, this needle minder. This one I think came from StitchCon. So it's just a ridiculous number of needle minders, which I don't need to have on there. So I worked on that for a little bit. I also worked on this embroidery project for a little bit. It's almost a joke how little. I did one purple heart here and a little over a half of a purple heart there. So is that all? Yeah, did I do some of the blue? I think I only worked on the purples. I did also do a little stitching on a group project, and then I also did, where is it? So, in conversations with Emily, Eclectic Possessions, before the retreat, when she very graciously agreed to donate a Momily bag for the raffle, she was looking through her fabric and to choose out something for the donated bag, and she sent me a picture of some fabric and said, I have this and I've always thought of you. And I said, oh my God, I love that fabric. And she allowed me to special order a Momily bag from her. So I have my first official Momily bag that was hand delivered to me. And if you can see why I love it, it is tatted motifs. This is not bobbin lace, this is tatting. And I love it. Now that I'm showing it, I could actually use this bag. The inside fabric, how perfect is this? So I love this bag. One of the things I had planned to do, I plotted this out ahead of time, that I wanted to see if I could recreate those tatting motifs. So I brought with me, and was I doing this on Thursday night? I think it was Thursday night. It was one of the first things I was doing because my brain was just in some combination of excitement and nervousness and is everything going right and what do I need to think about for the next, that I couldn't focus on anything in a lot of ways. But luckily, I finally settled down at some point. I purposely brought tatting shells with me and some thread that I was going to use for tatting because I wanted to see if I could pick out one of the motifs on here and recreate it. And if you look at, and I wasn't going crazy for any of the big ones. I went with this motif right here. And I haven't finished off the threads on this. How can I hold this up so you can see it? If you look at the printed thing, and it's a little smaller, I mean, you'd have to really be really good about knowing the size threads and stuff. But I've done my best to recreate that little motif. Yeah. Can you see it? So tatting this little thing was a good little in-hand project to kind of keep me focused. And it was a fun, some of these I could totally see how to do it. Some of them I cannot. Either you could say that the printing of the fabric, it just sort of, it's not clear enough, or however they created this, but what a fun challenge it is to kind of think about how to create these. I don't know if I'll do any others, but it was something I had definitely wanted to do, and I did it. I feel like, oh, nope, that's not next on the list. Okay, next on the list, I wanted to share a little bit about Works by ABC at the retreat. Did I show this little sign last time? I don't remember when I finished. I mean, I think I've shown the stitching, but I don't know if I showed you the FFO'd little sign, which sits on a little stand. So I had my trunk show there. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. I also created a Try Me area, which I was glad to see a number of people using. And this was thanks to a conversation quite a few months ago with Gary on Fiber Talk, where we were talking about different types of needles. And it was spur of the moment. It came out of my mouth. It was not planned at all, but in that conversation, we were talking about different types of needles and what if you had a blind test to test out different kinds of needles? Could you tell the difference? And if you could, how it could help you decide your own preference. Well, I took that idea and ran with it. And so there was a Try Me area, and in that area there were a few different hoops set up, with Aida, with linen, of 3 different types of needles, so you could test out. And then there were cards, needle A, needle B, needle C, and then there was a card where you could go look and see which was needle A, which was needle B, which was needle C. And it's sort of like, while I was at it, what else could we test? Kreinik versus Petite Treasure Braid. There are times where I feel like Kreinik gets a bad rap, and it doesn't always deserve it. And it especially kills me when I hear people say, or I read it on Facebook group or something like that, where someone says, I'm looking for an alternative to Kreinik because I hear it's so awful to use, even though I've never used it. Well, give it a try. And granted, if you have access to it, I get that. So I set up, again, one hoop. One side of it had Kreinik, one side of it had Petite Treasure Braid. Try them both. See what it's actually like. And again, with a and B and cards, so you can check your answers. What's another thing we always talk about? Anchor black versus DMC black. Set those up. Set up a couple hoops with those. And while I was at it, Anchor white and DMC white. Haven't heard that many people talk about a difference with those, but why not? I set those up. Then, as part of the donations, both Victorian Motto Sampler Shop, forgive me, they also donated to the raffle, and Color and Cotton, they also donated to the raffle. Thank you very much. Had also sent along some samples for the Try Me area. So I love that I was able to give people the opportunity to really see these threads, and in Victoria Motto's case, the fabric as well, and try and play, stitch a few stitches. Play with the threads. Wow, this is nice stuff. Sulky Petite also. How many people have been talking about sulkies, and maybe they don't want to order anything because they've never had a chance to try it. Well, they had a chance to try it at the retreat. So I was glad for the opportunity to share that little Try Me corner. Next to the Try Me corner, I had my Works by ABC trunk show set up, and I did a debut at the trunk show for my latest pattern called No Net. This is now available on my Etsy store. I'll put links below, both as a paper copy and which I'll mail to you, or as a PDF. It is called No Net because a no net is a grouping of 9. Now, it's usually 9 musicians, like a duet or a trio or a quartet. But it is a group of 9 that works together harmoniously. And this group of 9 are 9 squares that come from an old pattern book that I put together. This is the project that I had started working on that I did show in my last video. I had to put it aside because of other things that I've been working on. These are the thread peels, by the way, which are now hanging off of this, but I am using sulky thread here, and this is a DMC here. I do want to get back to this. It just got put aside. But just because I didn't have this finished, which obviously is going to take a while, there was no reason to not come out with this. So this this pattern is available. You could obviously just stitch one square and make a nice small out of it, or make an ornament out of it. But I just love the symmetry and the geometry of these. And I hope you do too. So again, they are available through my Etsy store right now, and they will soon be available through Hoffman, which means available to your LNSs as well. That's my little Works by ABC update. Some of you, itchy nose, I just want to share this piece. When I mentioned that I was gone for a few hours on Saturday afternoon, enough people have seen Instagram posts that I just want to make sure to tell the whole story straight. There was a group of friends. We were a group of friends going out for a little adventure. And it started because a few months ago, I was talking with McKenna, Stitching in Sequence, and forgetting exactly how the conversation started, but it has come up that I do not have my ears pierced. I don't have a good reason why I don't have my ears pierced. It's just something that has never happened in my life. There were 2 times that I was with people that we were going to do it, other people who didn't have ears pierced as adults. We're going to do this. There's, again, no reason why we haven't done it. We're going to do it. And then for different reasons, both of those times didn't happen. And when McKenna heard me say, yeah, I'd like to get it done, she was like, well, we're going to get it done in New Jersey during the retreat. And she said, and you know, the place to go is a tattoo parlor where they do piercings. That's the best place to go. She's like, maybe I'll get a tattoo when I'm in New Jersey. Well, that became, who else wants to get a tattoo? And it just became a group of friends. Maybe we'll go get tattoos. Now, I'm not in a place where in my life that I'm again, never say never. I was not interested in getting a tattoo. But the whole thing started because Arlene was going to get her ears pierced. Who wants to get a tattoo at the same time? So a group of us slipped away on Saturday afternoon to go, and this had all been arranged ahead of time. We show up there, the people who are getting tattoos are checking in, doing the paperwork and everything, only to discover that the piercer called in sick that day. So I still don't have my ears pierced. This is now the 3rd time in my life, major, significant, I can remember the details, although this was the closest that I was supposed to get my ears pierced, that I had a clear plan, it was going to happen, and it didn't happen. Someday it will happen. It will. It would have been a great memory, and the whole afternoon was a great memory. Please know this, and I appreciate friends. I so do, and I appreciate being with people who are just enjoying what they're doing and having a good time together. And at the same time, there's something in the irony of all this got started because of my little piece of not having my ears pierced, and I've ended the day, I ended the retreat, and I still didn't get my ears pierced. You may have seen I wasn't really posting on IG, but through McKenna's Instagram posts, she actually stayed on for a couple extra days. It was something we had planned ahead of time. Um, that was wonderful. I enjoyed having her. I think it helped me in those first few post-retreat days to be focusing on some touristy things. She very much wanted to see in Philadelphia, there is a place called the Mutter Museum, which is a place of all kinds of scientific, historic, like it's all old um, specimens in jars. Like even to this day, modern medical students go and study what's there. Um, and it's a place she had wanted to go. And then when we were planning this day in Philadelphia, I suggested, well, if you want to go there, we might as well go to the prison at the same time. She's like, what, a prison? Eastern State Penitentiary, which is an old, it's almost a ruin or partially a ruin. So we spent the morning at the Mutter Museum and then the early afternoon at the Eastern State Penitentiary. You may have seen that her time here in New Jersey got extended. She was supposed to leave on that Wednesday late afternoon, and thanks to thunderstorms, she actually didn't get out till early Friday morning. So, what can I say? I appreciate having good friends in my life. I hope she didn't get too sick of her time here in New Jersey. But we went to visit some cemeteries, found some cool things on tombstones, and just hung out, did some stitching. Um, you know, that's a good friendship right there. So all of that also added to the fact that my retreat decompressing and the cleanup and the hangover and all of that got delayed a few days, we should say. But it's all good. It's all good. There's one other topic to talk about, and I'm just going to add this in briefly. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else to say about the retreat other than just I just loved bringing all the people together. And just hope that everyone had a great time. And how can you do something 2 times and not do it a 3rd time? I have no specific dates. I have no specifics at all right now, but I have to believe that there will be a New Jersey Retreat 2020 next summer. Just give me a little bit of time to work through the details of how that's going to be and everything. I'm just not ready to make commitments right now, but it means so much to me, and I know it means a lot to a lot of you, and so I think together we need to make this happen. My other topic is just to share briefly about the New Jersey State Fair. I just learned this year that there is a state fair of New Jersey. I've been aware of a county fair in my area. I've entered stuff there in the past. There's a reason I haven't entered since. It's not that exciting in that, how do I explain this? Well, let me just go forward. When I heard about the New Jersey State Fair this year, it was through my lace group that the New Jersey State Fair, which is quite a distance from me, has a whole lace category. And on top of that, one of my lace friends had offered to take items there and actually even to pick them up for me, which was a huge thing, that I wouldn't have to do the drive, which was like over an hour and a half to where this was. And I decided, I believe part of it is the spirit of support a fair, support showing your work. Every piece that's in a fair is a piece on display showing handiwork, craft, art, hobby, whatever word you want to use. And I wanted to give this a try. I wanted to see what it was all about. So my friend Pat did bring up 1 lace piece and 2 needlework pieces for me. I chose to go on the very last day, which was just this past Sunday, to go up there to see what it was all about and then stay to pick up my pieces at the very end. I'll say this, my apologies to anyone involved with the New Jersey State Fair if you happen to be watching. I was underwhelmed, just because I mean, it reminded me a lot of the county fair that's near here. I appreciated everything that was there, that was on display. In terms of the competitive aspect of it, basically every piece was given a ribbon, and in the needlework categories of cross stitch and needlepoint, and I would even argue probably the knitting and crocheting, there were just an awful lot of first place ribbons. There just wasn't a whole lot of meaning to the ribbons, and there didn't seem to be any like best in category, best in show, best, any delineation above that. The lace category, I will give more credit to the judges there. There was definitely much more spread out. First, everyone got a ribbon, but there was definitely first, second, and thirds in terms of scoring, that they definitely made decisions about things that were more well done than others. I mean, I guess you could say, well, they just thought everything was well done in the cross stitch and the needlework point categories. I don't know. I was also quite jumbled in the way everything was displayed. I mean, there were a few pieces that were hanging up, like the 2 pieces I entered were hanging up because there were less than 10 that were like picture framed hanging up. And the others were not picture frame things. And they were all mishmashed together. I mean, you would have a little cross stitch small next to a knitted doll, next to a crafty papery thing. I mean, it was all mishmashed together. And that kind of display way just drove me crazy because I couldn't even see all the things that I couldn't even process out. And the display cases just were filled with so much stuff that were from all the categories. I mean, there was one display case that was clearly devoted to lace. But then some of the lace spilled over to another display case, which had some other random stuff in it. So anyway, I'll just share with you briefly. You have seen these pieces before. I think I showed this in my very first floss tube. It is, I'm pretty sure it's in ink circles. Is it written in here? No. So yeah, a first place. I mean, again, I don't see this as having much meaning to me, or that ribbon having that much meaning to me. I was curious how this would be received. This, again, I have shared this. I've entered this in other competitions. I had to enter it in the needlepoint category because that's what it best fit in. And again, that first place ribbon didn't feel like it had much meaning to me. Just, again, there were so many first place ribbons and there was nothing that indicated anything, any other higher awards or anything that they wanted to say anything higher than that. This I found interesting, but I'm perfectly good and pleased about this. So this lace piece that I entered earned a second place. And I am pleased with the fact, and I did get some judges' notes, which I'd never gotten at the county fair. And the judges' notes for these 2 needlework pieces, for the cross stitch and for the silk gauze piece, were just filled with beautiful positive words. And the judges' notes for this lace piece, which is very honest, which I appreciated, a lace maker studying this, I mean, you might look at this from a distance and say, wow, but a lace maker studying this will see that there are lots of errors in this. And I appreciated that this was not just looked at as a big, pretty thing, that the judges that were judging the lace were lace makers. And they could say, looking at the finer details, there are lots of errors in these areas. So I give lots of kudos to the lace judges for the honesty and what was said about this. So I appreciated that very much. So will I enter in the state fair again? Well, probably not, mostly because of the distance involved in taking pieces up there. I can say that every interaction I had with people in the pickup process, like you went to the table, you got the thing, you got assigned a volunteer, you went there, like there were 3, if not 4 people that I had to interact with, and each of them said, "Thank you very much for entering the fair. We hope we see you next year." You know, I get it. They're just pleased to have so many entries. they had so many entries, but they also had so many categories. You could almost enter, God, almost anything. I realize that every state fair is different. There are some that are very competitive. There are some that are beautiful displays of our particular love, cross stitch, stitching of all kinds. This was not one of those kind of state fairs. I wish I could be in a state that had that kind of thing. The kinds of competitions that I am interested in entering in, well, I actually have a piece, my big gossamer lace piece, which was not my big gossamer lace piece was not at the New Jersey Retreat. I had this at the New Jersey Retreat. And I had a few people who said to me, it's smaller than I thought it was. This is actually a picture. This is a 12 by 12 inch picture in a frame. And I had it made up so that I would have something. The actual gossamer lace piece is off at a competition right now. And that is at the ANG, American Needlepoint Guild. And that is a competition that is, focused on needlework and judged by needlework judges who are very critical of all the pieces. And I will be curious to see how it does there. I have no idea that is happening this week. I mean, I had to send it off a couple weeks ahead of time, and I knew I had to make a decision this year. Either I would have the gossamer lace piece, this piece, the actual original piece, with me for the trunk show at the New Jersey Retreat, or I would be able to enter it in the competition. And I decided I should enter it in the competition. It would be my opportunity to do it. In a lot of ways, I don't see myself as a hugely competitive person when it comes to this. I do want to contribute to displays and exhibits, and I am interested in how my work stands up against others. I would have loved if there had been a huge display of cross stitching, and whether or not my work got a best in show. I would have loved to see what a best in show looked like. That would have been appreciated, but it wasn't meant to be at the New Jersey State Fair. If you have a state fair like that allows you to see lots of needlework and allows you to see what at least one or two or whatever number of judges declare to be particularly superior, that is just awesome for you. Yeah, that's my report of New Jersey State Fair. What else is there as I'm trying to maneuver myself around here? So I'm still very much dealing with the post-retreat pieces. I'm just going to delve a little bit into the personal world in that I have coming up something hard this week, and I will appreciate any of positive vibes you can send my way. In the Jewish religion, it is traditional to have what is called an unveiling a year after a person dies. And that is where the stones have been put in place at the gravesite, and you bring together family and friends. It's part of the grieving process. And my sisters and I are doing a joint unveiling for both of our parents this weekend, and we will have family and friends together. Many of those who were at the funerals last year. It's going to be a rough weekend for me. So any positive vibes you can send my way will be greatly appreciated. I haven't talked much about this other than just brief mentions at various times, but I'm just looking for the community to be with me because I need all of you. And just like I felt the love so much at the retreat, just as I witnessed love, as I witnessed the hugs and the greeting of people, and then the people who came up to me, and whether they were just saying thank you or whether we were just chatting, love is important out there in the world. So, thank you all for staying with me here. I'm going to try and wrap this up under an hour. The retreat was wonderful. If I have forgotten anything, especially if it's something personal with you, my apologies. Till next time.